It all begins with self-learning. It all begins with education. It all begins with making sure you know what you're getting into. Of course, I can trace my history here. Our family can trace our history here. 5 generations, 6 generations if you count the present. But it all begins when you walk onto the jungle, you get into the jungle and realize, try and understand why you need to save these lands, how you need to save these lands. And that learning process is something that never stops. Okay, it's an ongoing process. It's going on, the journey goes on. Starts when you walk the jungle, when you walk with different people, okay, different landscapes, do different activities, be it walking, be it bird watching. Bird watching is an important activity. Why? If you realize one particular type of bird missing, it tells you a story. Why is it not there? Why did it not turn up this year? What's happening over there? Soon, this thing has morphed us into becoming a group, not only where we've gone and learned for ourselves, we are teaching others. We are part of this a group that is teaching youngsters, teaching people, talking to locals, making sure we're interacting with different people, and these people have started respecting what we're saying. This has taken us time. Yes, nearly 3 decades, 25 years on field. This has taken us, now we pretty much training the people who look after our jungles, who protect our jungles, who are out there. We get invited to give meaningful talks, trying to get across to our audience why we need to save these areas, what is the importance. And from a small motley group, now we've become a nice, large family with the next generations already coming in. Let's start talking about my first love. Of course, this is Bhadra Tiger Reserve, my first love after my wife. Let's be very clear on that. Okay, so Bhadra, the Tiger Reserve now is a very, very vibrant, a very healthy jungle. Tiger numbers are going up. The density of the animals are going up. Prey species are going up. Everything's looking nice and hunky-dory. Not always so. The pressures that man has put on these jungles has had a very, very detrimental effect on these areas, has set back to a certain extent. One of the major problems we faced initially were people living inside the jungles. Let's not get our facts muddled. These are not what we called tribals. These are not people who've always lived in the jungle. Okay, these are people who've moved into the jungle, started agrarian activities, people who've moved in because there's a big dam being built in the 60s. A lot of us moved in as labor. A lot of us moved in as workers for that dam that came up. Living over there had its own problems. Okay, you're living in the middle of a jungle, a 500 square kilometer, nice pristine habitat. You would start doing other activities which started having detrimental effects, not only for the animals, it's also for humans. This is Mr. Shetty over there. His fields would get raided nearly every single night by elephants. Not a good option over there at all. And he faced a lot of issues trying to target the elephants and make sure they went back. We had livestock. We had more than 4,000 livestock using our jungles on a daily basis. Of course, we had small game hunting. We had poaching. We had for sustenance, for meat. So the animals didn't have a good time at all. Right through the 60s, right through the 70s, right through the 80s, the people living there really wanted an option. They wanted solutions. They were clamoring for a solution. What was the solution that came up? Yes, we will try and give you some facilities. Won't work. You can't have some facilities. All of us have a right to much more, better education, better medical, better livelihood options. So slowly they started a narrative that said, let's try getting these people to move out voluntarily, if they wanted to move out voluntarily only. Eventually, in the late 90s, we came up with an option where all these 436 families living in 13 villages were given an option of shifting out onto different lands, which had landscape, which had water management, which had rain-fed or channel-fed water. They started moving out in the late 90s and started moving. And this is how the jungles become now. After the 436 families have moved out and the animals have moved back in. This is Bhadra. If you remember the first picture, that was where this was. One of the next major issues we faced was mining. Okay, now let's get this very straight. We all need metal. There's no way we can live our lives without metal. But where we do our mining, where we do our metal extraction, how we do it is what plays a huge role. We can't do open cast mining in, say, an area that has 2000 millimeters of rainfall coming in every single year. We can't do open cast mining where there are 6 rivers taking birth. We can't denude our landscapes like this. We need to do it in a much better place. We need to do it in an area that works for everybody around there. Mining metals is not a bad thing, but where you do, how you do makes a huge effort. You need to go out there. How we stopped, how we objected to this. We went out there, we realized what was going on. We said, okay, this is bringing awareness, trying to get people to understand why mining is not good in an area that gives birth to 4 rivers. You have the Yakchi, you have the Bhadra, you have the Tunga, you have Netravati, Hemavati, all these rivers taking birth in the mined areas. We came up with an area, we said, from this, right now, our jungles look good. Right now, this is Kudremukh. This is how Kudremukh looks right now. Okay, the next, one more huge case study or one more huge campaign that we fought was windmills. While windmills is seen as an alternate source of energy, yes, it's brilliant to think about alternate sources of energy. Again, where, when, how, why. There was an option, there was a project, and ill-conceived to a certain extent, that said that we're going to have wind farms coming up in Chikmagalur. Okay, so this is supposed to be a 57 megawatt wind farm project. This is supposed to come up in Chikmagalur, 76 windmills coming up. How do those wind vanes, yes, it sounds good, but how do those wind vanes get up there? How do you transport these wind vanes up there? You need huge trucks taking them up. You need 40 kilometers of new roads taking them up. Just that awareness brought up red flags for us. We objected, we brought it up to the notice of the administration, we got it up notice of our locals. With a little bit of help, finally we had to approach the courts. And don't get me wrong, but the Indian democracy system, our judiciary, spot on. But you need to go there with proper facts, proper figures. You need to fight your case. You need to make sure you know what you're saying. Finally, this was shelved. You also, the points that we brought up was, how do you get the wind vanes up there? How do you get the power back down? This is not going to fly up, not going to fly down. Be careful. Okay, so Chikmagalur, we're blessed. Like I said, we live in paradise. We're blessed. We have literally the wettest zones in India right now in Chikmagalur, which is Agumbe. We also have the driest zone. While being dry is not a bad thing. It's not anything to do with, there are no trees growing here. It's nothing to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. There are some animals which are completely adapted to living over here. They can't live anywhere else. So we had to be careful. We had to make sure we weren't crossing any lines trying to preserve these areas. All of us need roads. There's no doubt about that. But why do you need a road that's passing through a pristine land and which is going to be 40 feet in breadth? You really don't need that. You need to be careful where you choose your expenses, where you choose your so-called development. Next, this is something that is really hitting us, tourism. This slide is all about tourism. While nothing against tourism again, I think tourism is wonderful. I think it's brilliant. I think it's only when you travel the world is when you realize what you have in your midst or in your base. It's only when you go out there and experience the world is when you realize that yes, where I live is really important to me. This particular slide has all the red dots, the blue dots, the white dots, the pink ones over there. The red ones are homestays. This is of Chikmagalur. This is just Chikmagalur. The green lines are the protected areas. Now, please remember this slide. I'm going to come back to it later in my presentation. The red ones are illegal homestays that have come up. The blue ones are the legal homestays that have come up. The pink spots, the white spots are resorts that have come up in Chikmagalur. The pink spots are high tourism areas that are already existing in Chikmagalur. Now, nothing wrong with tourism, but you need to be careful where you sanction it. It usually starts with something like this, a small, we're making a parking area in a protected tiger reserve. We're just making a parking area. We're not doing more than that. Small amount of construction. You say, okay, we're going to make a very, very minor, like a temporary tent structure. So, don't worry about it. It's not going to have an effect on you. But before you know it, before you can control things, you're going to end up with huge amounts of garbage collection over there. You don't know what is happening. Social media nowadays is very, very strong on both ends of the sword. It will blow up. New roads will start coming up. Your roads are going to get broader and broader because you're going to have more vehicles coming in. And the very reason that people would come to see those hills would be lost. You'd be left with an ugly scar-face thing. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we've given out options. We've said tourism is good for us. There's nothing wrong with tourism. But spread tourism around the district. Keep it away from your water bodies. Keep it away from your elevated zones. Have different type of tourisms. Have nature-based. Have tourist centers. Have religious tourism. Have just relaxation. Have agro farming. Everything. Use existing infrastructure. Try not coming up with new stuff. We are blessed to be living in areas with homes that we can let out. Do a homestay in the proper notion. Don't try and build new places. You want to build resorts? Nothing wrong with that either. But choose the right spot. Choose the right area. Try and pick up an area that's very, very low on thing. The other issue that we're facing, encroachment, growing coffee. Coffee is something that's very new. I don't think any of us can do without our coffee. I definitely cannot. But coffee came into India around 200 years back. And now we grow coffee in Chikmagalur, we grow coffee in Coorg, in an area that was once a jungle. But let's be clear on one thing. Even Bangalore was a jungle for that instance. Most of your cities were jungles for that instance. In fact, the spot that we are staying in, or we're standing in, might have been a lake not too far away. So when we started growing coffee in these areas, these are legal holding in Chikmagalur as well. There are a few people who've gone out of the window and started encroaching forest lands, but not everybody. All of us get painted in the same brush. We share our space. We share our space with different people who've been on these lands before us. We are sharing our space with them. Yes, it's scary. Having a 3,000 kilo animal pass through your lands is a little scary. But that understanding, keep that understanding alive, keep that sensitivity going, keep that, I'm going to give so much space to this animal, I'll back off, I will wait for him or her to move ahead, and then we'll be fine. Yeah, so let's go back to the homestays and the resorts. The pink line you see is what happened in the month of January and February this year. The pink line is an elephant herd trying to find her way through this obstructions that she had, trying to find her way through jungles and trying to make her way through into a bigger patch. Okay, so she got stopped right through. This matriarch tried moving her family of 22 elephants, trying to make her way through. We also share this land with reptiles. Okay, so we also share this land with other mammals. Now, these are all conversation starters. Let's not look at them like man-animal conflict. That's a word that's really been banded by everybody. Try and use this as an opportunity. Try and use it to try and start that conversation on how we can further take our crops ahead, further take our produce up ahead, trying to get the end consumer to understand how it's important to drink your cup of coffee from an area that is being grown, that coffee is being grown very, very responsibly. Chikmagalur gives birth to 6 rivers. If I am not careful, I am going to denude this property very soon. Okay, so in the end, this is just you as a person can make a huge difference. You just need to make up your mind. You need to realize as an individual, we can do this. You play a huge role, however minuscule you are. You play a huge role in saving those lands, in saving the lands behind you and the sky on top as well. We all can make a difference. We really need to start as soon as possible. We need to start today. Thank you very much.